Welcome to Behind the Mask in Conversation with. Behind the Mask is a neurodivergent focused podcast that aims to offer support, knowledge, understanding, and most importantly, exposure to the neurodivergent community. If you are here, firstly, I hope you enjoy the episode. And lastly, if you are enjoying it, please like, follow, share, and subscribe because your support with this podcast can really help us push the message out. Keep being amazing all, and thank you. Is here. Hi, love. You all right?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Looking glam. You got your glam on, girl. You've painted your face
Me?
and
Nah,
everything
look,
for
I'm
it.
just in a t-shirt. I barely brushed my hair. I was like, oh my God. I washed it last night and I left it to dry. So I was like, oh, look, it looks like a frisbee.
Giving vibes. Giving the vibes. Big hair and everything.
I've got really thick hair. It's hard to maintain. So half the time I
Yeah,
just leave it to dry.
just showing off there. Yeah, I have none. Bald as a
I've
goat.
got some for the both of us.
Sad. Yeah, so for anyone who's watching, this is part of the podcast series Behind the Mask. So Behind the Mask as a concept is a conversation with people that are impacted directly or indirectly around neurodivergency and send support needs. The whole idea of the podcast is raising awareness. It came about over the last 2 years. I've been diagnosed with ADHD and I'm in the final stages of being diagnosed with autism. And there's something about late in life diagnosis that makes you kind of want to do something to stop other people being in that situation. And this is where this podcast has came from. I reached out to Millie because she is a local girl, girl of my own art from the Black Country. And Millie is a creator that, as well as showing her family, the funny side, the good, the bad, the ugly, she's a massive advocate due to her own beliefs and her own experiences with her son, Keegan. So welcome, Millie. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for coming on.
Nervous.
Do you know, and me, I said that just like I do lives all the time. I've done this, and I'm like, I'm absolutely shatting me pants. Like, what's the
I
crap?
honestly, I don't go live very often. I think it intimidates me because like so many people throw questions, but doing this for me is easier because I just have to answer your questions, right? So I feel like I'm good with that.
Yeah. And I think the thing is with lives as well, you kind of have that, like, you want to answer everybody, don't you? You know what it feels like when you
You
feel like
feel
somebody's not
rude.
seen you.
Yeah, you
And
feel rude. Like so many comments will come through at once and I try and keep up with them. It's important like you can't respond to that many people. And then you also get like a lot of spam accounts and troll accounts that come through and it's like I'd sit arguing all day if I did live. So I try and avoid them normally. But I'm excited.
good. And it's like really good to have you. And yeah, I appreciate it. So yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, or anyone that's listening on online through podcast, and there's no face to the voice, can you let us know who you are?
Um God.
Talk us through yourself, gal.
God, so my name's Millie Hart, and I'm originally from Warsaw. I lived in Bloxwich my whole life, and now I live in America with my husband and my son and my stepchildren.
Fantastic. And this move to America, like it'd be rude for us to not touch on it. You literally grabbed the bull by the horns and was like, I found my man, I'm off. And like
Yeah,
props
I
to you.
mean, I think a lot of things when I was a lot younger, which I don't speak about on TikTok
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I'll graze through. There was a lot of things that I went through when I was younger, and I kind of think that kind of made me not want to stay in Warsaw. So like I've got a sibling, my sister, and she's very homebody. You know, she's always going to be around that area. And whereas I was really different at 18, I went traveling for a couple of years. And then, you know, I went over to Australia very young and went round Australia. So I think a lot of people always ask me, was people shocked that you was coming to America? And honestly, I don't think out of everyone, it was always going to be me that was going to leave. So I felt like meeting Mark was just meant to be for me because I don't think Warsaw was always my end goal. So it kind of just, I think it kind of felt that I landed the right person in at the right time, kind of thing for me. So for me, moving here, I know it should be a massive deal, and it was at the time, but that I'm so impulsive. Like I'll just do what I do, and that's it.
Yeah, and for anyone listening, if anyone tells you gaming's no good for you, it's a lie. Because it was through games you met Mark, I believe,
It
wasn't it?
was, it was. We both downloaded the same game. I'd been playing just a little bit longer than he had. And through that game, you know, originally I didn't like particularly like Mark, if I'm being honest. He wasn't that interesting to me. He seemed very, very smug and arrogant. But then over time we become really good friends. And then obviously,
The
yeah,
rest's history.
the rest history, yeah.
Moonlit flit, and now you've got this fantastic life in America. And it, like, I mean, you speak openly, like you'll always be a Warsaw girl, and there's always things. I think for anyone that don't know the Black Country, there's something about the values and the roots of where we're both from that
Mhm.
stick with you. No matter where you go, you've always got that salt of the earth, and yeah, that carries through, and I think that comes through your videos as well, which I think is why so many people around here. I'm like, there's our gal
I
living the
think as
American dream.
well, so we know if I do a lot of comparison videos, say I'll do a comparison video for home and America, a lot of English people or people from the UK don't understand my comparisons from Warsaw. And I think it's took me a very long time to realise that the rest of the UK is nothing like the Black Country. So when I speak about my differences, it does come from where I was born and raised, which is Bloxwich, Warsaw. So there's so many things that I've realised that the rest of the UK just have never
Yeah,
done. And I'm like, oh, okay, even the way we, you know, like traditions and everything's so different. So that's been a big learning curve for me. Sometimes I feel like I should just do, you know, USA v Black Country would be
I
more.
had it the other day. I was on a live with somebody, and I was eating an herbal tablet, and they went, "What's them?" And I was like,
That my
"Herbal
nan's favourites.
tablets."
If my, I think my mum and dad are watching this. And my dad and my nan, my nan who passed away, my nanny Van. She used to have herbal tablets to the point that I was that obsessed with them. This is a true story. Like my mum and dad will verify this is true. She used to have the big tubs of herbal tablets when we was growing up, and like I was a favourite. Like I ain't even lying. So she would let me have a few more than the rest of the grandkids, but I
Standard.
was greedy. I put them up my arm once, you know, the big thick ones from like the sweet shop.
They
And
ain't even like that anymore.
she was like,
Proper
Millie,
Teddy Grey's ones.
yeah, the thick one. She was like, have you took more herbals than you should have? And I was like, no, Nan. She was like, shake your wrists. So I went like this, and the herbal smacked her in the eye and gave her a black eye. I blacked my nan's eye with an herbal tablet. That's how much I love.
Standard Black Country behaviour.
That's one of the very fond memories I have of my nanny Van, that I blacked her eye with an herbal tablet.
It is, and I think like people generally, like I remember you gone about grandparents and stuff. Like my granddad's cooking was rank, but if your day eat the belly draft, which was cooked in lard, you'd have a pudding or your pocket money.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
still
just,
love belly draft, mate, with
I,
Swede.
yeah, but I've only just started eating it again because I've realised it will belly draft a day. Like is that my granddad was an absolute crack cook.
Yeah,
Like
me see
oh,
my
oh,
mum is a phenomenal cook, but her speciality is meat. Like they come over very soon, and I was like, Mum, will you cook? Oh, and lasagna. I said, Mum, will you cook me some proper meat when you come over? She went, yeah. We'll get the slow cooker. But my dad can also cook too, so I was quite lucky growing up that they can both cook. So I got some proper good food in me.
yeah, it'll be great for you. And like I'm excited for you. Like as I said before to you, like I'm somebody that's seen your videos and seen everything, and you've gone through the mill. So to now be, no pun intended, but to now be in the situation where your parents are coming over. I know your sister came over recently, and you spent some time back here. Like it's lovely to see, and I'm chuffed for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, so this podcast then, as mentioned, anyone that's just joined, it's to raise awareness, understanding, and build connection between people impacted by neurodivergent conditions. And Millie, thankfully, has said she was happy to come on. For those that don't know, do you want to talk through your circumstances as a mom, your young lad, and your connection to the neurodivergent and SEN community?
Yeah, so obviously I do share a lot on TikTok, but there's also a hell of a lot that I don't share. And the reason I don't share certain things is out of respect for Keegan. So I always think to myself, in 20 years, when he looks back at some of the posts that I've posted, because once it's on the internet, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I always think, what would he be okay with and what would he not be okay with? And obviously, I would never post him in like a full meltdown. I would never, because that's just something I've took and I've stayed with. So I try and post the positive. So obviously, there's a lot of the harder things that I don't share on TikTok just out of respect for Keegan. Um, but for me, honestly, and I think a lot of some parents will completely see where I'm coming from. This was definitely not something I ever thought would be my life. Um, when I was pregnant, getting pregnant with Keegan, I felt was a miracle within itself. I never thought I would have children. And you know, you have all these expectations as a first time mom of what it will be, and all these things that you looked forward to, like the first word, the first time that the clap, the first time that the wave bye bye. And when I had Keegan, and this is the God's honest truth, from the moment he was born, like the moment, I knew he was different. And I felt like I was crazy in myself. Like I was questioning, was I seeing things that wasn't really there? Like, am I sick? Do I need to go to a doctor's? Am I doing something wrong? And there was a lot of like things throughout that first year of his life that he just wasn't achieving. But obviously, as a protective mom that I am, I didn't want to hear that he wasn't achieving it. I just wanted, you know, people used to make jokes saying, oh, he's just miserable like his mom, because I'm known for being moody. I'm going to be honest, I have my days. So
We all have a mod every now and then.
exactly. So, but I think when he was about one, even like I knew I needed to seek the right help for him. And I think any mom, any dad, any parent, every carer, because I think we forget it's not just us moms, it's all of us
Yeah.
that are caring for someone with SEND needs. That was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to do, was to admit that my kid won't where he should be. And that makes me really emotional.
And I understand that totally, absolutely. And at any point you want to stop or move forward, we can. I I I I I don't understand personally, but I can absolutely empathise the things that you've
Good.
been through.
I hate crying.
It's all right, do you know
I'm
what?
meant to be
Like,
from
as we'd
Warsaw.
say, you wouldn't be human if you were crying. You wouldn't be human. And
I'm
I
good.
think with that, and I think things that like other parents have shared and stuff, that there's a huge pressure on women in general to get it right, and almost like this expectation that you're just going to be this natural mother and you're going to know everything, and
Mhm.
ultimately there's no manual to it. And I think something you said to me previously, and you'd put in your video, like, there's no manual to being a mother. So when you hit motherhood, and you find out that your child has needs and things like that,
Mhm.
it's a whirlwind. And I think there's a lot of moms here from different sense support groups and stuff who are all kind of absolutely empathizing with what you're saying, and what you've been through with it.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely, it was a very bittersweet moment for me, because on one hand it was letting go of the life that I expected, and that's the truth. Like, people
yeah,
can judge me for that, but it's like a grief. It's the only way to describe it. It was a grief because I was pregnant with a lot of my friends at the time, so all our kids was on that same group of age. So going on social media, I would see like my friends' children doing this, doing that, doing this, and my child wasn't. So I had to get my head around the fact that this wasn't about the life I expected. This was about doing the best for my son. And once I'd got past that, and it took me about 2 days, and I'll tell the truth, I didn't hold on to that for very long. I realised that this is never about me. The moment you become a parent, it's about them. And I think getting to that point of, okay, what else does he need? That then give me like a new purpose in life. So
yeah.
even though I lost what I felt was one purpose, I did gain another one. I hope that makes sense.
It does absolutely. And I think like the beautiful thing that, and I think we'll kind of explore this. I think being the common theme people say is, although there's difficulties and frustrations, there's so many beautiful moments that no parent of an abled or typical child will ever experience and understand, and those moments and milestones that you share, a lot of them, and like a lot of those sit with the efforts and works you put in. So you mentioned about things that you noticed, that kind of woman's intuition or mother's intuition. What kind of things was it from yourself that gives you that gut feel?
So I remember me and Keegan had to stay in the hospital for a couple of days because he spoke to temperature and I spoke to temperature, so we was both like on antibiotics. And at the very moment that happened, I was devastated because I was like, "What do I do with this little baby? Like, oh my God, I'm all of a sudden like, I'm a mom." But actually, that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me because what it did, it took me away from all the hecticness of a million people around me,
Mhm.
and it gave me that just that couple of days, just me and him, and only people could come when there was visiting. And I
And just to
remember,
ground and come back down, is it? You've
yeah,
just been through
exactly.
one of the most traumatic things ever, a woman giving birth and having a child, having that grounded time just to kind of find your bearings again.
Yeah, exactly. And I just remember staring at him. Like even now he's 7. My husband, anyone that knows me, I will check Keegan 9, 10 times a night and watch him breathe. Like I'm like a stalker. I just watch his chest move up and down. So I remember sitting in that hospital bed and watching him and watching his chest move, and I couldn't help it. I had to pick him up and I wanted him on me. But he absolutely hated me. From the moment I can remember, he just didn't want to be touched. Like
Yeah,
he was never content really in anyone's arms. Eventually, mommy's arms was his safe space, and he's still like that now. He does not leave me alone. Like he's still very much on the cord. But that is definitely the one thing that was from very, very beginning. Like I remember going to Costa Coffee in Warsaw by the wharf with my mum.
yeah, yeah.
Keegan, then he was in arms. He still couldn't really hold his head or anything. And I remember that being one of the worst experiences of my whole life. Like this was something I dreamed of. I'm going for a cup of tea, a cup of coffee with my mom, with my son, and this should be like, I can get pictures.
Yeah,
Wow, look at what we're doing. And Keegan literally sat on my mom's lap, just squirming to get off her and screaming. He couldn't cope in this shop, and he was
just
literally
full on
2.5
like
months old.
sensory and just not
Yeah, but he
not
was two and a
managing
half
it.
months, and I was like, so I was like, what's going on? Like, is he getting sick? Like, I questioned so many things, but I realised pretty quick that my son's happy space was looking at his lights on his mat and just not being touched. Honestly, he didn't like it.
And I think that must have been difficult having to, as you said, you used the word grief earlier, and that's exactly it, because you build a picture of what you think will be, and you almost have to erase and change that chapter. But they, the fact that very quickly, 2 months in, and you going, do you know what? I see his happy space, and started to allow that to happen because actually Keegan's calm and comfort become the priority very quickly for you. I think
Hmm.
that just shows that it is that mother's intuition, and you kind of knew what was needed with that.
Hmm.
And from that, then, as a child, so how did the first few years look then for anybody that kind of um, isn't aware of different conditions or
Um,
experienced it? What did it look like those first few years leading up to the point where you were able to kind, because the milestones are such this key thing in like children's lives and stuff like that, and they take a while to get to them, to be able to measure against and all these things.
um, can I be honest?
Yeah, yeah, go for
The
it.
first few years was hell. Hell, looking back on that is like me and Keegan was in a war zone and we barely got out without like we barely got out of it. It just felt like we was drowning. That's what it felt like. It felt I've got the most amazing friends and family back home. Like I've got amazing friends and family here now. But nobody could understand it. Nobody apart from me and my child. And there was so many aspects of what was going on that I didn't understand. I didn't know what to do. Like, and that I ain't saying that as like I knew what to do, but like I had no clue. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
what am I doing? And
You're learning as you're going. Yeah, like in
yeah,
that situation, you don't
that
know what, you don't know
diagnosis
what
from
the
him
next
being
day is going to look
referred,
like.
yeah, it was just it felt like we were suffocating, and I couldn't get out of it. And like, I know a lot of you see Keegan now, but you know, I wasn't on social media back then. Like, you know, Keegan 3 years ago was completely opposite to what we're seeing now. So, like, I couldn't really go to the store. I couldn't go out for lunch with my family. We couldn't do everyday things that made life sustainable. And this wasn't Keegan's fault and it wasn't mine. It was just the path for right then that we was on. And as his mom, what I needed to do is get us on a better path. So like, you can, like, my mom and dad, I say you can ask them like a figure of speech, but anyone
Yeah,
who
yeah, I know
knew
what you
me
mean.
at that time, I literally did not stop fighting. And when I say fight, I don't mean I was calling up. I literally used to get into my car and drive down to like the child development centre and stand there so they would remember my face and hear his name again and push him up that list, because I know there's so many other children that are waiting these lists. But at that time, I would just need it out for my son. I didn't know what to do. And then you start learning, you know, the EHCPs, like all of these things that are there to help him that nobody wanted to tell me about.
Yeah.
Nobody, like nobody, no health visitor really knew what to say to me. So
And
you have to learn.
it seems so common across the board. Everyone I speak to, it's like it's a battle to get anything. And it's like until you go to somebody and present them and go, I know that this is available, can I have it? Nobody opens doors. And
No.
unfortunately, it seems to be this uphill battle that no one should face, let alone new mothers trying to get support for their children.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of that was what felt like we was drowning, because I didn't know where to go. Like, you know, I sent him to one school near Mossley for a while, and that didn't work. Keegan's needs just couldn't be met there, or so I
And
was like,
was
what?
that a special ed school?
No, I mean, so when Keegan's health visitor came at 1 year, he was one, he was just past one, about 13, 14 months, you know, for like that annual check
Yeah, yeah.
to see. And at that point, I already knew what she was going to say when she walked in my door. I wasn't prepared for it, but I knew, I'm not silly, I knew what I was seeing too. And she was like, I said, what do I do? I asked her, what do I do? Like, honestly, I wanted to throw her out my house because at the time I felt like everyone was attacking my kid.
Yeah.
Um, but she was like, get him in school, get him round children, get him socialising. And I wish I could go back to that woman and say thank you, because of what she told me to do. I truly believe because of how early I intervened with getting him around kids, getting him in routine, it substantially made him thrive. And this is why, like,
Yeah.
a lot of people think America is Keegan's change, and some of it is, don't get me wrong, but I do think a lot of it was what was happening at the very forefront of
Like
his early
that
development.
early interaction and
Yeah.
being around like children his age and whatnot.
Yeah, because I think a lot of us, a lot of parents and carers, because our children are non-verbal, because our children have extra needs, because our children have, you know, a lot more differences to children of their age. One of the scariest things for some parents is to send our children to school or to any kind of daycare, because
That loss of control is like
yeah,
you know your baby, you know what they
yeah,
need, and that
yeah.
detachment. It's
So I think that is, and understandably, I get it. I think that is a lot of reasons why a lot of some parents choose to wait till, you know, them 4, 5 to put them into school. And I am so glad that I didn't do that. I'm so glad. From the moment she told me to get him in daycare and socialise, the very next day I was on the phones and I got him in appointments to find a school. And he went to one in Warsaw for about 4 months just to gradually get him into it.
yeah.
And I'm so glad I did that. And that would be my advice to any parent. Even though it's scary, find the right school and daycare and just do it.
And I think when you think about it from like a logical point of view, like I don't know whether early exposure is the right term, but there's less time to find comforts. Whereas actually, if they're in that environment, it's almost you learn that behaviour in those early stages rather than going at it when you've had such a sustained period of time, just you and another. Like if they were 3 or 4 when they go into preschools and things like that now, that's a long time to grow attachments and then have that anxiety around socializing and changing that structure in it.
Well, yeah, because I mean, the one thing about autistic individuals is that they thrive on routine and predictability. That is something that is very much has been a part of who Keegan is from the moment I remember. So I feel like if you wait 4 or 5 years to introduce something that's so big and impacting, which is school, the harder it's going to be for them. I feel like the earlier that it's introduced to a child, the easier it will be. And like I know that because I remember taking Keegan into his first day of school, and now he's telling me what he wants to wear for school. So like he's able to understand and he's able to be in them routines because he's been doing it for so long. And time is a great thing for our kids. The quicker we introduce what's expected, because unfortunately, we can't shelter them from this world. This world is what it is. There's not a second one. There's not a send part of the world where we can all live as happy families. The world is accustomed for what it is. And unfortunately, the world's not really changing quick enough for our children and for individuals like you. So that means we have to try and prepare them for this world in the best way that we can and keep them safe. So making them hard decisions to put them into school earlier, letting go of our worries and saying, okay, I'm going to entrust somebody else. As hard as that is, in the long run, it
Yeah.
is a lot more beneficial for the children, I think.
And I think that is, I imagine that didn't come without the guilt,
I
like
felt
that
awful.
that mom guilt that a lot of women, a lot of my friends speak of, that mom guilt around moving your child forward into those situations and stuff like that. But looking back now, as you said, it was so everything you went through then, now seeing all the benefits it's had for him, it was a credit to you being able to kind of see that as well. And I think like but what was the guilt like? How did you manage that? Was it something you
I
managed to?
cried, and truthfully, I stood outside of his school. Me and his biological dad at the time, we took him to this school and we stood there for hours. I didn't leave. I
You
didn't
just
leave.
you needed to feel close by.
I went and sat in a coffee shop that was 2 minutes up the road, couldn't breathe, like pacing and everything. I might seem like I'm absolutely barbaric, and
Yeah, I
but that is literally what I had to do to feel like he was going to be all right. Do you know what I mean? Because anyone who knows me, Keegan is my Hercules heel. He's the summit, and it's not just because he's my child. Just because of what I've seen him go through. I've just got this protection of him I've never felt anything like this before. Like it's just what I do. So I can't cope not hearing him. I
yeah
can't cope when I can't see him. And he's nearly 7. And that's probably I don't do him any good being that way. So I do try and I try not to let him see that side of me, even though in my head I'm like, where is he? And they
yeah
say that moms don't have 1,000 eyes. I really feel like we grow eyes when you become a SEN mom, eyes that we didn't know we had. Like, there's a certain sound, and I'll know, I've got to run. Like, honestly, like, you learn, like, different, because for a lot of us, our kids can't talk. So you learn different noises, different sounds, different taps, different cries. Like, I can look at Keegan, and with an eye contact, I'll know that he wants to drink. Ask people around me, people to this, that, how do you do that? You just
yeah.
learn.
Loads of mums in here are saying we
Mhm.
just have that amazing gut, that feeling. And when you're working and supporting and nurturing and developing your child like that, the bond that between you, like you've said before in videos, like I have to be his voice, so I almost have to understand and
Oh,
be
yeah.
able to voice for him.
For me, I don't speak for Keegan, and I've always been very, very assertive of this. I don't speak for him. I speak on behalf of him. I'm never going to be his voice, but I'll speak up for him for the moment because I feel like I'll try and watch how I say and what I say in regards to what Keegan would want. He might be non-verbal. He is still classed as non-verbal, but he's a very intelligent little boy, and he's very able right now to come across with what he wants, what he needs. And I know his personality, I know his likes, I know his dislikes. And for me, what I want is in 10, 15 years' time, when I know that he's going to be thriving and developing even more than he is now, to look back and
Hmm.
say, this is what my mommy did for me, and
Yeah,
this is what my mommy tried to do. This is the world to try to change, and to try to share my story through my eyes and not through her eyes, because my eyes are nothing in comparison to what he sees. So for me, I like to speak on behalf of him because he is a person, he's a human being, and I can never be his voice. I can just speak for him and I can be his advocate. Until he can be his own. But honestly, recently I feel like Keegan is really, really advocating for himself. Like he's
Really
making
coming into his own.
yeah, he's making his needs known, he's making his likes and dislikes known. And I think that's one thing that we want as SEN parents is to give them independence. Because we'd be lying if we said, we do wonder, will they get married? Will they give me grandbabies? But all of that, looking at it right now, that means absolutely nothing. Just because he might never get married doesn't mean he wouldn't have a fulfillful life. Like
Yeah.
love and children, it doesn't mean fulfillful.
I
Doing
think I
what you
think things
want
like
is
that are kind of indirectly ingrained in us, and it that life is built on this cycle of you get to a certain age, you do your studies, you start a career, you get married, you have a family, and this is this life cycle. But it's so different. Everybody's got their own kind of path to find out, and I think exactly that. Like he's going to absolutely meet his full potential at every point because he's got the platform and support and ability to kind of thrive, as you've mentioned.
Yeah, I agree. I think we live in a society now where, you got to grow up, get the perfect job, marry the perfect person, have these perfect children. And I really think that since having Keegan, he's altered my perception of what we should be doing. And I feel like the bottom line of it all is that we should be happy and we should live a life that makes us happy. So if for Keegan growing up in 20 years and doing, because I think he'll be some mastermind technician, honestly, and doing that as a full-time job and having one friend and living how he wants to live, that means I've done a good job as a mom. And I think that's the hardest part is swaying away from that, is swaying away from the expectation of what our lives should be and the
Yeah.
expectation of what their lives should be. It's up to Keegan what he does with his life, not me. How many people that are non-autistic, non-ADHD, grow up and never get married? Loads of us. How many
Hmm.
people grow up and never have children? Loads of us, for all different reasons. So why is it we put so much pressure to grow our children into being these parts of society that they might not want to have been anyway, with or without
Yeah.
autism? So um I just want him to be happy. That is, if he's happy, I've done a good enough job. That's
And
that's that's enough for me.
and like in relation to communication and that, um, I know from his videos there's ways in which he's developed and he's built the ability to articulate himself through different ways and put across what he wants. What's that journey been like to enable him to have the opportunity to kind of speak his voice without speaking, kind of thing? Like what type of things has he been doing and how did that development look for him?
Um, Honestly, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible because um and not for me, it must have been horrible for him because he could talk. When he was like 10 to 12 months old, the basic words like, yeah, dad, mom,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
cat, dog. So when he started talking and saying all these words, I was like, because already I'd like noticed things from a very early on. So I was thinking, you know what, I am crazy. He's talking. And I remember one day waking up and literally I can't tell you how it happened, what days or dates, but I woke up one morning and I was like, he ain't spoke. Like you just say it like, why ain't he been talking?
yeah.
And
I didn't
that,
realise that he'd started life talking and then
yeah,
this
he
developed.
could say about 10 to 12 words. And I remember waking up one morning like, them words I've been around for a while, like, oh, okay. So I actually then went on to Google, which I know is the worst thing ever, but in this case it was kind of true for us. Um Saying that I put in my son has lost his words, and everything that come up was autism, 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 autism. And obviously now I know that regression is a very big part of autism, and I would say it's the
Yeah,
hardest part. So his speech was kind of there. And then with Keegan, he had something called the kind of was it echolalia, or it was like very similar to echolalia. So it was, for people that don't know what echolalia is, it's kind of like repetitive with either
Hmm.
noises or sentences. So like, for example, if I said to you, hello, how are you? You would say back, hello, how are you? It's like a repetitive. And Keegan's very
Hmm.
repetitive in everything that he does. So it kind of made sense. So Keegan never did it with words, or he did it with sounds. So like he would like hold on to one pitch that would never change, and he would just keep doing that sound for like months, like not
Yeah.
days, months. And you know, in the end, I'd go to sleep, and that sound would just be radiating through my head. And then slowly but surely, he would learn something like, like a nursery rhyme. He learned like
Yeah.
a nursery rhyme, like you could kind of hear
Like a
it.
bit of a riddle or
Yeah,
things.
but then he lost it. So he used to really lose words, and then he kept one word, which was, more and please, because we'd done it
Yeah.
through Makaton, and then went. But then when we moved over to the States, he wasn't like talking at all. And then the last, I would say, year has been where it's really like, I mean, he will, it's not like he'll walk up to me and be like, hello mom, can I have a drink? It's more like he's nonverbal, but then like I'll say, what do you want? So like, if you really push him to talk, he'll be like, pop,
Yeah.
pop, or it'll be like popcorn. Like the words are there, but it takes a lot of working to get them
And
to come out,
I think that's the common misconception around nonverbal compared to somebody that is a mute or somebody that is dumb and can't physically make noise in some ways. The nonverbal side, it has peaks and troughs. And as you say, like sometimes he will say words and he'll have things, and other times it just simply doesn't want. And like my friend's child, similarly, he will choose as and when he wants to communicate or feels comfortable to communicate in his way.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, his communication is a lot of like he'll just show me. So like if there's days where he'll like say a lot more and do a lot more, but then there's other days where he won't be as like trying to say them words. And if he wants a drink, he'll literally give me his bottle, go to the fridge, like he's like cup, and then he'll get me like the juice out and sit it down and just look at me. So
Has he
like
got his cup, and that's the cup he drinks from? One of those.
he's still got his plate, but he lets me change his plates now. He's not as like on me for stuff like that anymore. But he's actually still got his plate from when he was one in England. It's a Paw Patrol, I think it is, a red plate that I brought over from England.
I think every household's got one of them bad boys out there at some point.
Yeah. And he still eats off it now. So yeah, he was very particular with things like that for the longest time, but he's doing a lot better. We've been able to change like cups and stuff.
And I think going back to the relationships you've got, something that we spoke about before, and I think it was something that hit hard, but then I kind of went, that makes absolute sense, was you were saying around when you become mother to a SEND child, you're no longer just a mother, you're a carer.
Hmm.
And like I was like, what, like the penny drop moment, you are that, both people for them. How's that for you? Like, are you comfortable talking about that, that
Yeah, I
change
think
in things for you?
I think it's a real hard one to um express, because I'm always his mum first, but the reality of it is my son's 7 and I'm still changing his nappy. So there's a lot of things that he can do, but there's also things for his age that right now he can't do. So
Hmm.
at the moment he's not that great at washing himself, or he's his sanitary needs and things like that still fall heavily on me, even at 7 years old. And that's just part of that global development delay. So, for me, he's more than just being a mom, it is also being a carer. And I think people who don't live this life and they don't have children that have additional needs, whether that be physical or intellectual needs, when you have a child that is, who needs them that extra care, you do feel like you're both, you know, um, if you've got a mom who's got a child that's non-autistic, has got no development needs, it's still hard for them. Mothering's
Hmm.
always difficult for all of us, but we have just a different kind of life, a different kind of journey. You know, why one's off to the park, the other one's off to a therapy appointment, and there's so many things that go into Keegan's diagnosis that requires so much more care. That
Mhm.
it's. I feel like even now at 7 years old, I've never really had a day where I've just been able to go
On Millie
like,
today.
yeah, I'm always kind of ready to, run if he tries to run in front of a road. Like, it's that constant needing to give him just a bit extra than I would. My stepdaughter, she's only 6 months younger than Keegan, and there's so many things with her that I don't even have to think. Like,
Yeah,
it just happens naturally for her, but for Keegan, it doesn't. So the things that I was doing for Keegan, for example, he's 7 years old, and there's still nights where me and my husband are up like he's a newborn, and the lack of sleep. So that's where it feels like you a mom and a carer. And I hope that, yeah, it's someone just said on here, it's a constant fight or flight mode. And
yeah.
I definitely feel like that's the mode that some parents and carers are in all the time, as well as our children. They are in that same mode.
And I think you 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 adapt to, and you kind of take on that feeling that they have, and that becomes your, like, you then start to function as a two. I know people who I spoke to before has says you no longer operate as a person, you operate as like a collective, and they're very much like your right arm, if you want, rather than just having a child that you're nurturing. It's something that you've continually got to be aware. And is that like anxiety at the best of times can cripple you. Throw in
Um,
somebody else's anxiety and they're responsible for somebody else.
Yeah,
That,
honestly, like where I am right now with Keegan is the best place I've been in a very, very long time. And that is just down
love
to the
that.
support system that I have from my husband, from his brothers and sisters, from my family and my friends. And I feel like I'm in the place right now where everyone around me understands me. And I think it's that lack of understanding from the outside world that causes that anxiety. It causes that protection mode. So, the moment you leave, you're scared, or you think someone's going to stare at your child. And it's just so many feelings rolled into one. But I do want to say something while I'm on this live that I
Yeah, yeah.
feel is very important. And I also think it's something that we don't speak about often enough. Um, when you make motherhood your whole personality, you lose who you are. And for a very, very, very big part of my life, my whole life was just a mom. I was in this one lane, flappers on, nothing else around me mattered. And I realised that actually living that way was more damaging to my child than I thought it
Mhm.
was, because before I had Keegan, my name was Millie, and I was a person, I was an individual. I had likes, I had things I didn't like. I like certain food, I like certain TV shows. And it's that Millie that is the best mom to my child. It's that
Yeah.
Millie that will sing karaoke with him, that will dance with him, that will have a laugh with him and be all of them amazing things. And one thing that I've realised is that you can be a SEN parent, but you can also be who you are. And a lot of us lose our character. That's not just SEN parents, all of us parents. We
Yeah,
lose
you,
who we
you
are.
adopt the role solely as a
Yeah,
parent and you stop being a person, a human. Uh, there's a lot
yeah.
of people in the
You do,
comments
you do.
who are
You stop.
resonating with what you've just said.
You and for mums and dads and carers, parents who make that their whole personality and are happy living that personality life, like good for you, like you're killing it. But for me, that didn't work. I was running on a cup that was empty. And I realised, a lot of us will feel bad because we go and get our hair done, or, if we buy ourselves a t-shirt that, oh my God, we've got to buy our child another 10 t-shirts to make up for it. And I think once you sway away from that and you realise, actually, my child's always going to be put first. He's always going to be loved. He's always going to be kept
Mhm.
safe. But I'm also allowed to breathe. I'm also allowed to have an hour where I go and get my nails done, because me doing that means I come back and I'm
That's
more
recharging your
back up.
spoons, isn't it? Getting you a bit of.
Exactly. We live in a society where mums, especially SEN mums, are expected to have this constant like go, 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 and it be about the child all the time. Now we have to fight every single day. We do, whether people realise what aspects that comes from the stairs in the shops. It can be from the school that are not doing what they should be doing. It can come from friends and family that are just not understanding. We're fighting every single day. If on top of that fight, we're losing who we are in it, then we may as well just say, I give up, I
Yeah,
surrender. So you have to be who you are before your child. I mean, he's changed me, obviously, but I'm still Millie and I'm crazy and I want him to look back. My mum, I remember some of my fondest memories is my mum and my nan dancing on the bar or dancing in the living room to Stars in Your Eyes. And
yeah.
them are the fondest memories I have. And I never have looked back thinking, oh, my mum was terrible because she got her hair done.
I'm the
Like,
same. Like when we talk about my mother, like you always think of paper roses on the karaoke down the pub, and it's weird.
exactly.
Like there's so many things I did as a mother, but it's the thing. I think it's the shock factor, right? But like when you see your parent being a person, you kind of go, "Oh, who's this?" But then you have to remember, like beyond a mother and a parent, like that they're just human beings, and
Yeah,
I love
we're
that.
all just human beings and none of us get it right. Like, so I'm not a very big drinker at all. It's very rare that I have an alcoholic beverage. But on Saturday, we'd been on all day long. We'd been on all day long, ready for my mum and dad. Because my mum's like my queen, right?
So you was on a cleaning mission, or
I
yeah?
was on a clinic. So I had myself a couple of margaritas. Now, because I don't drink, I only need one and I'm merry. So obviously, and someone commented, oh, she's always drunk. And I was like,
I
you
saw
can't
that
be.
on the video. That was the one in the gut. Was you thinking,
Yeah.
remembering when I was at school, they treated you
Yeah,
like
and
that?
I was like, if that,
Yes.
and I was like, honey, if I was drunk, I would have been swinging off the fences. All right,
Oh, you would
I
have
would have
known
been
this girl was
swinging.
getting
So
down.
people are just so judgmental now. Like, oh my God, you have children and you had a bottle of wine. Like, I literally, if I have a glass of margarita, I want my child around me. I like to know that my son's with me. I don't want to be leaving my kid with anyone. I'd rather have a good time and my kid be a part of that, sing on the karaoke with me. I don't want to be without my child, but I also want to have a good time around him because that's what I lived like. Like my best moments was with my nan singing in the living room. Like, and we're so judgmental that all these parents and some parents should just be what do you want us to do? Just sit on
Yeah.
the floor like robots. We're human
It,
beings and we're allowed to have fun.
it is unfortunate. It's the society we live in where everybody else thinks that they can make their mind up on how you should be. It's the same with grief. Like if you go through loss or you've lost somebody, and people are going, look at her, as out, as laughing, and like who's making these rules up?
There
Like,
ain't no rule to how you deal, and I think this is one of the main reasons I wanted to come on this with you today. Is there's not a notebook for how some parents should cope, but all I wanted to be able to do is give you strategies and things that have helped me. And do I get it right? Absolutely not. Do I still struggle? Absolutely. Do I still question that was the right decision or this was the right decision? Of course I do. But it's took me a lot of years to realise that actually I'm human too. And if I want to have a cry, that's okay. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, that's okay too. Like we're allowed to feel these things and we're allowed to sometimes grieve the life that we didn't get. But as long as you can pick yourself up from them moments and pull it back, then you're just doing the best you can. Like there's no rule book to this.
and
There
how
really.
would you say you got there? Like, was there anything in particular? Was it a time thing? Was it a people around you thing? Was it talking more? Like, what got you to this place? Because although, as you said, you there's still battles and there's still struggles, but you seem in a really good, positive place where
I'm
you've
my
got
mum's
like a good
daughter.
balance.
I am my mum's daughter. I don't share a lot of my mum and that side on my TikTok.
Mm,
You know, I'm not there, and I like to give people respect away from sharing everything about my past life on TikTok because this is Millie Hart's TikTok, not everybody else's. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
like to be respectful, but I'm very, very close to my mum. I always have been. She's just everything to me. My mum is, but she's very strong. I've watched her go through some of the hardest things that people should ever have to go through,
Mhm.
and I think. looking at having a woman like a role model, like my mum and like my nans, that was always in my life, like my sister, like my auntie Kerry. I had a very good strong women around me, and I think that molded me once this started with Keegan to say, you know what, the things that are really hard for me right now, somebody else is looking at my struggles, wishing that was the least I had to worry about.
Yeah,
And I always think there's so much more that could be worse. That my son has his health. That's one thing I always think to myself. I
like
know things are hard.
reframing it to see
I'll try to
the
just
positives
rephrase.
from it.
If you have to look at the glass half full and not half
Yeah,
empty, and that's something. I mean, did it happen straight away? Absolutely not. Was I angry for the longest time? Absolutely. Like I'd be a damn liar if I said I wasn't. But over time, you know, I'm 7 years in, 6 years technically from when he was one, like the referral.
yeah, yeah.
Them 6 years is a long time to process, think, learn, educate, and to grow as an individual. Don't think I'm 31 now. At the time, I was like 25 years old. I was a lot younger. I was a lot more immature. And with age, with time, with growth, I've just kind of learned that actually this is the life that we got dealt. This is what it is. No amount of moaning, like being irritated or wanting it to change is never going to change the fact that my son's on the
Hmm.
spectrum. And now I'm like, you know what? I don't want him to change. He is who he is, and he was built for me. Someone up there knew that my son needed me as his mom, and I needed him as my son. And we just work, me and Keegan work, honestly. We just work, we just do it.
And I think it do. I think it takes a special type of person to be a good mother, but it takes an even more special individual to be a sane mom
It
because
does.
it is, and it is. You were meant to be there for him. Like you were meant to be his biggest advocate, his biggest supporter, and his biggest champion. And he's blessed to have you, just as you're blessed to have him.
I am. And I think you know, we was talking about earlier at the very beginning, that it's the hardest part originally of all of this was not seeing him reach his milestones. Now I thought that
Yeah,
was, but looking back, you know, when he did reach a milestones, that was probably the best feeling in the world. So I look back and I'm like, actually, he might have been 2 years what the doctors say he should have been to wave bye bye or to say hello. But you know what? When they did come, that was the best moment of my life. So it was worth the wait. And that's what I'll say to anyone. Them milestones are worth the wait. If I have to wait another 10 years to watch him do a next milestone in 10 years' time, that 10 years would have been worth the wait. And our
and
children are.
I think you capture that beautifully in your content as well. Like a couple of standout ones was when he first got his computer system to communicate, and you were sat next to him having a rattle with him through his thing, and he was just like, "Look at me, baby, look at him," and I'm like, "Go on, girl."
Yeah.
And the one with the burger as well, that was one that made me
No,
chuckle.
he's eating burgers now. Like he will.
And it was
Um,
when you went, "That's got gherkins and onions on it and all." It
I
tickled
couldn't
me
believe
because
it
you
though,
went
because honestly,
broad.
like, I saw a video earlier, and I might see. I still don't know how to use social media very well, so I don't know how to share one video to TikTok. I'm still confused on all this, but there was a video when your autistic kid eats a new food, people autistic parents, "Wah!" And everyone was screaming in the middle. And I was like, that is so true. Like, if so, for example, my friend Sarah, who's on here now, and I hope she don't mind me saying, like, her daughter's got ADHD. So ADHD, I think, has a lot of similarities, especially because Keegan's ADHD too. Like, that's one of his diagnoses. Like, you
I
know,
didn't
things like
realise he was ADHD.
yeah.
Yeah.
So one of you know, food and new foods or new things, new challenges and all this kind of thing, like, you know, for parents or my friends that live this life, like, oh no, I could phone Sarah right now and be like, Sarah, guess what? And she'd be like, what? Keegan touched his eye when I told him to. She'd be like, ah!
Get
She'd
him.
like be bringing down the balloon. So it's that, and that's what I've tried to do on TikTok. I don't know if I've succeeded yet, but I'm still working at
I'd
it,
say so.
is to bring a community of 10 people together, because I think once you've got a community of good, strong 10 individuals together, what that does is give you that relief system where if you want to phone them up and say, and people might relate, people might not relate, but this is true. And they say, my kids just smeared poo up the walls. Someone who don't understand autism would be like, me, I'd be like, oh, me too. That happened to me last week.
Let's
They're
clean
like,
shit together.
yeah, it's finding your people, and I've really, really, really tried to do that on TikTok. Is to find a place where it's not about just me. It's not just about Millie. It's about the people in the comment section that can
Yeah.
comment to each other. And I know that there's people throughout my TikTok that have come away and have actually become friends. So if my platform can do that for as long as it may last, then I'll kind of go to heaven knowing that I did something positive, even if it
Yeah.
was helping one person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think that's what's changed my life in a weird way. Like going from spending years rattling with the amount of tablets the doctors give you, telling you you've got X, Y, Z and stuff, to now being on nothing. But actually, the people I'm surrounding myself with understand. I've got that many more neurodivergent friends where when you talk to them, there's something weird when you talk to them and they go, oh my God, I understand you. And you know that they ain't bullshitting. You're like, thank fuck for this, because for years everyone's been saying to me, "You're too soft, you're too emotional, you worry too much." All these, and now all of a sudden someone's going, "I get it." It's so kind of reaffirming. So I can imagine how it must be for a mother finding other moms that just speak your language.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really important to find people that understand, and I mean that's for every aspect of life, right? You know, if you've got friends that have got the same interest, hobbies, or whatever as you, like naturally you would just have a lot more connection. And that's the same for some parents. I think it's really important to find your people that are not going to judge you, because unfortunately, I wish it wasn't the case, but it is. We don't live in a very kind world towards neurodivergent. Unfortunately, it's not a world that is very friendly all the time to our children and to the adults within it. So I think when you find that crowd and that your people, it does definitely make your life and your child's life a lot better, a lot easier, and a lot more fulfilled. Like it's really nice to be able to, for example, Keegan's stim is very loud. He holds his ears and he makes a very loud noise. Um, but you know, to be able to go onto the phone to, you know, a certain amount of friends who get it, and they're not going to say, "Oh my God, I'll call you back. He's been too
Yeah,
loud," or
what's he going on
them
for in the
actually egging him
background?
on when they're on the phone to be like, "Go on, kids, get it, kid." Like, so I feel like finding that kind of, you know, them kind of people to surround yourself with is definitely the best thing that I've done. And there's people that I don't talk to anymore because, you know, for me, I kind of live by this rule now that you're one strike out.
Yeah,
I've learnt my lesson far too many times that giving people too many chances, you know, a leopard never changes its spot, so to say, which I've learnt the hard way. So through that, now, you know, if you're not good to me or my child, you're gone. Like, see you later. And by being that way, as harsh and brash as I might sound, it's actually made it a better life for me and Keegan, because I don't have to worry about no one's BS. I've just
yeah.
got good people, you know?
And talking about stimming and that, so what type of stims does Keegan show, and what stims does he
He's had
have and that?
everyone in the autism handbook. He's had them all. And I know there ain't no handbook, but if there was, the stims, the
There's
flapping, the
the
spinning,
hands.
the flap, the first ever one that he used to do was spinning. And I ain't joking, people on this chat will know what I'm on about. The autism spin is, it should be put in there with a superpower on Marvel. Like, you know, the Marvel
If you
films.
put a discus on their hand and get them in the Olympics.
The can't, he don't go dizzy. He's never gone dizzy in his life. Like, that boy could literally spin for hours and hours and hours and then just walk off like it wasn't happening. And I'd be like, how does he do that? So that was his first spin. And that used to make me really paranoid, because I'd be like, what if he did? Even though I knew he was never going to fall, you always question, what if that one time he did? So like, my whole living room had no furniture in it. None. Because I didn't want to risk him falling and cutting his head on a corner of furniture. So I just like, it was just like this empty room that was just Keegan proofed.
Yeah.
Then he went from spinning and he went to like a tap. Like he would like tap himself, and like he just did like movements with his body. And then it went from that to flapping, and the flapping was brilliant. Like it was the cutest stim ever. And then he went from flapping to the one that he's on now, and this has been like the longest lasting one, like that he puts his hand over his ears and then does like his sound. And this stim has been, this one's going strong, man. So I'm kind of intrigued to see what stim we get next, if we get another one. It is like it is something different all the time.
And that's what keeps it fresh. But for stimming, so stimming's done as a way of regulation, isn't it? Ultimately, it's self-soothing, it's self-regulating, and it can come in many ways. It like heads, noises, verbal actions, and stuff. And I think, like with again parents that I've spoke to, they kind of went through a stage where they tried to stop it in public because they didn't want the attention, and then very quickly they've changed and just gone, stim away, like the other people are the problems, just knock yourself out, bab, I'll sort them out, kind of thing. And it's such a positive move where parents no longer have to feel this kind of awareness, because when we were kids, you'd walk around the supermarket and parents would go, oh, look at them playing up, doing this, doing that. And thankfully, I
It's
think
still the
things have
same
moved
now, to be
forward.
honest.
Oh,
Um,
do you still experience the same?
Yeah, I think stimming is a subject that's not mentioned enough, and based on previous videos it's been circulating over the last few months on social media, in the news in general. Stimming is not understood as it should be. I think it's something that everybody should know about and be educated about. And the example I used the other day, if there was a child or an adult that was in a wheelchair and they needed that because of their disability, nobody ever would walk up to them and say, stand up and walk.
Yeah,
Nobody, you wouldn't, because you can see
yeah.
that they're in that chair.
Stop sitting down. It's making me feel
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
exactly. But people are literally telling autistic individuals to stop stimming. It's the same concept. Like that stim is literally helping them process and regulate the world that is around them. Without that stim, it would be a lot worse. If you think that stim's bad, make them stop and
Yeah,
see where that gets you.
it's that imploding as well, and that's where like
Yeah.
meltdowns and
Um,
shutdowns come into things.
I think the side of sensory processing disorder, which is theoretically the diagnosis of what causes them things, is so not understood. Sensory processing disorder can be an individual diagnosis without having autism. So a lot of
Mm.
people struggle with like sensory processing. But when you do have a diagnosis of autism, the chances of having SPD that runs alongside that diagnosis is completely heightened. Like it kind of comes hand in hand with autism. And sensory processing disorder, for me, the sensory side of autism, Keegan struggles, was definitely the hardest for him and me. So it was them senses that made going to the supermarket really difficult, that made wearing certain clothes really difficult, eating new foods really difficult, certain noises. Like it's all of your senses that we do every day, like that we don't even realize that we're doing. And I think it's important that people understand why them stims happen, and that we obviously there is some stims, and I just want to like go over what a lady put. Head
Hmm.
banging, head banging the floor is a stim. I would say that's probably the stim for parents that is the most worrying. And that's probably a stim that you want to try and sway away from, just because it is an immediate danger to the self, and we don't want our children to hurt the self. And just as advice, I do know that there's a sensory helmet that you can actually buy for that. I mean, do you want it to be a stim? Absolutely not. We don't want them to hurt themselves. But if that's what they're doing and you can't get away from it, definitely look into the help.
Make it safe for them
Make
as
it as safe as
possible
you
rather
possibly
than
can.
stop
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Um, Last few things. We're at 7 o'clock already. We can rattle, Bab. We can rattle.
We're from Warsaw, Babcoska.
This is it. The save what I see on Wednesday. So it's just close enough to
Junction
touch.
9.
Yeah,
Junction
not
9 on
far at
Junction
all.
10.
That's it. One
Mm-hmm.
junction away.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I think that is clear is this blended family that you've built, and you talk about your bonus children and the relationship that Mark and Keegan have got and things like that. How has that evolved, especially like with your bonus children, and then embracing Keegan into the family dynamic and stuff like that? Because his relationship with Mark's daughter is beautiful. Some of the videos you shared and their little world they've got, and
Um, so honestly, like it's still now it's easier, but obviously it's still a learning curve for me and Mark
yeah,
because even though they're very close and they can have, they've got a really good connection, it's still sometimes trying to, explain that sometimes, he doesn't understand that or
yeah,
she doesn't understand that. Because they are so similar in age, it's trying to find that common ground because in some aspects Keegan developmentally is ahead of McKenna, but then in other aspects she's developmentally ahead, so they kind of can go like this, and it's finding that balance where they're both comfortable. So for example, sometimes I'll know that Keegan is overstimulated, like I can see it in him, I can like feel it in my body from him, so I'll know, okay, he's feeling overstimulated, he's probably not going to want to do that activity, he's probably not going to want to be mooched with and cuddled right now, so that
hmm,
means I can then be like, okay, should we not do this? Should we go and do this? Like it's trying to find that balance and read between the lines, which has got easier obviously over time. And the one thing about the children is that they are very understanding to Keegan, and I'll really try to make it that all three. I know that they're not biologically mine, but I do love them as my own. When I chose
that's
Mark,
clear. That's
um,
from the relationship you show. That's clear.
when you choose somebody with children, you don't just choose them, you have to choose the children too. And, I love them all equally. I would do the same for each and every single one of them. And when me and Mark have a child together, all of them will be the same bracket. But, and I've always been very, very clear with Mark on this, Keegan's needs will always be a priority for me. And that's just what it is. He's disabled and his
Hmm.
needs have to be priority. So we try and do it in a way that it's a good balance. Everyone feels love, everyone gets the same attention, everyone and I feel like that is just something that takes time. Blending two families together takes time, and I feel like me and Mark have done really well in that aspect. And it's not easy. I mean, when me and Mark have children together, them children are going to have to grow up and understand their brother too. Like it doesn't matter whether they come from this household, that household, or from
Hmm.
myself. Having a child that's got different needs and additional needs is always going to be something that children need to be a bit more educated on. And I think it's very, very, very important as adults that we breathe this to all of our children, that we learn our children, if there's a kid in the playground that's not got any friends, or there's a kid in the playground that's not talking or them different, that we learn our children to approach these children,
Yeah.
because it's the ones that are not very nice towards our children never know if it's going to be them, because I never thought that I would have a kid on the spectrum. I never did. So if it's not you and your kids now, it might be your grandkids. It might be the boy or the girl that you fall in love with. They might have the kids that have
Hmm.
additional needs. So I think it's important that we
And I
really
think it's
educate.
that genetic connection. Ultimately, it carries through genetically, um, and I think that's where I've learned. Like, and I look at my family differently now. I look at it and I go, "Oh, that makes sense. Oh, actually, there's probably elements of it there and there and there."
Yeah,
And
I
it,
mean, honestly, I've learned a lot about autism, and like what like everyone the same question, why is my kid autistic? How, like that's a question that we all ask ourselves. And genetics, environment, all of these things play a massive part. And even to this day, with all the amazing science research that has been
Mhm.
done across the world, scientists still sit there and go, Mm. So they can say this is genetic, maybe that, but even to this day, autism is still so complex and misunderstood. I mean, the
Yeah.
brain is like the biggest organ we've got, right? So
Mhm.
to know the brain would to mean that we've solved all the world's problems, but we can't do that.
and
So
I think it makes sense in some respect because it wasn't so long ago that the conditions and viewpoint around children and adults with autism was so far different from now. And I think unfortunately, with those situations, the only thing that is going to change it and progress it is time.
Mhm.
And hopefully, as the years to come, all the work that's going into it and all the people who are broadening people's knowledge, such as yourself, or the creators, hopefully that difference can change the understanding and societal views on these conditions as well.
100%, and that just strays back to the point of it's what we learn our children now.
Yeah.
So our kids, my children, and them are the next generation, and social media and the news has took over a big part of our kids' lives. When I was a kid, I don't remember that there was like trends or I had to look a certain way. I don't ever remember feeling that kind of pressure like back in the 2000, like early 2000s. But now kids like as old as 10, 11 have certain pressures on them that they've got to be part of the fold. They've got to look like what everybody tells them to look like on social media. And I think it's within us as adults to make a change for our children, and to teach our kids that being kind and looking after the children that are different is really important. My dad, I hope he don't mind me saying, I don't know if he's still on here, but my dad was bullied when he was younger, and I remember something that stuck with me. My dad always said, you never bully, you protect the people that are being bullied.
Yeah.
And that stayed with me all through school, and it stayed with me into adulthood. I feel like we as people, strong people, have more power than we know. We can protect someone on a bad day, and it's up to us to make sure our kids are going to school or going to college or going to university or going into relationships knowing that being kind and being good is absolutely free. And
Fundamental
like,
values in it, that
yeah,
them
it's
grassroots
it's
values of
good. And we have to take
to
this
others what
like,
you'd want to yourself, and treat everybody equal. Like, they'll
yeah.
never change, will they? They're always them values you have to stick to.
And I think the biggest problem that we've got is we live in a society now where, and I'm not saying everyone, this doesn't speak for us, like anyone in particular, it's just as a general, like what
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen, is that parents don't want to take responsibility for their kids. Well, it ain't my problem. And I'm saying this, if anyone ever came to me and said, hey, like your child did this and came to me with respect and told me what my child had done, I would literally educate my child.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, well, he ain't done anything wrong. I think it's really important that we take responsibility to for our children. Like I have to, it's not always the parents' fault that kids can be, mean or nasty, but it is on us as parents to correct that and not say, well, they didn't do anything wrong, they didn't do anything wrong. Like we have to correct that at all times. And by correcting that, you're just raising good individuals, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with that, unless there's anything else you wanted to put across, I think that's a good point to go on to the last question if you're happy to
Mm-hmm.
answer it. So, a common theme with these podcasts is, at the end of it, I ask the guests a question, and it's the same question each time. Kind of sitting where you are in life and knowing what you know now. If you could go back and give a message to your younger self, what would it be and why?
Don't eat all the cake. I'm joking.
Don't
I'm
squat on it.
joking. Yeah, your metabolism gets worse as you get older. That would be my advice. No, um, to not be upset about the things that you deem as bad. To like, um, don't have the expectations that I used to have. Like as I say with Keegs, what I thought would be our life and it wasn't our life. I think to just know that whatever's good to you, it's because you can cope with it. And I'm a big believer of that. You only get given what you can cope with, even when it feels like you can't cope with it. So that is definitely what I would give to myself is just be prepared that whatever you get given, you can get through it.
No, I love that. So we've got a couple of minutes left. If there's any questions your side that you pick out that you want to answer and share, and I'll see if there's one this side.
Does anyone have a
Um,
question for me? I
there you
shut
go.
up, man.
Bang, 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 bang,
I've
bang,
been
bang,
putting
bang,
my
bang.
mouth dry.
Jeez, I'm gonna have a drink now. I've been watching you yak, and I've been like that. It's tasting sand.
So I just lost my nan today. I'm really sorry to hear that, Emma. I hope you're okay, mate. There's nothing I can say that'll make you feel better. I know that, but you're in my thoughts. Okay, so the question I'm going to answer is any advice for a mama starting the journey for a 2-year-old? My advice would be is to don't give up on your instincts. There was a few times when Keegan was little where there was like, oh yeah, like he'll outgrow it. Yeah, like that kind of made me feel like I didn't need to be fighting it, like just to let it run its course and see how we go. And my advice would be to do what you feels best and not what the professionals tell you. And to definitely get him socialising around schools and to not stop phoning. Phone, get the help that your child is entitled to. Even when you feel like you can't do it no more, just keep doing it. It will be worth it, I promise.
Lexi, a friend of mine whose son's just got his diagnosis after us fighting for him, has said, how's he getting on with his communication device? Her son has got awarded with one today.
So he's doing really, really well. I feel like that device kind of springed him into this like talking, more like because obviously there's pictures to the words where it's constantly seeing the pictures. So now like, I don't know if anyone saw my video yesterday where I'm like, Keegan, where's like mommy's nose, mommy's eyes, mommy's ears? Like he's aware of like where things are on your body now. And I really feel like the device at first it can feel sometimes like it kind of not working almost like
Yeah,
my advice would be just to really work with that, like even if he says gives you his bottle, give him the tablet and say tell me what you want, like
show
use
me.
them prompts to use the tablet as often as you possibly can.
Fab. Any other standout ones? If not, we can draw to an end.
No, that's it.
Thank you. Like I've
No.
absolutely loved this, and it's everything I wanted it to be for people watching and more. And I think just looking at the comments, I think the intent of this was all to give hope, to give support, to share experience, and there's so much in the comments saying that really.
I'm
So
glad.
thank you.
Thank you for asking me to come on. I've enjoyed myself, apart from being like having dry mouth to the extent.
Nah, flog Gandhi's flip flop.
I mean, putting
Um,
two West Midlands people on a live, but it was never going to be a quiet one, was it?
Not at all. Um,
But yeah, thank you.
but
Thanks for having me on.
No, but for anybody who is just tuning in and didn't catch the start, this will be out a week Monday on YouTube and a week Wednesday on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. So if anyone wants the details, yeah, I'll be sharing it on my post. I'll share it with Millie. Millie can share it out. I'm pretty sure everyone my end is following you. So yeah, from me, thank you very much. I've loved it, and I
No
appreciate you coming
problemo. You
on.
have to say no problemo,
No,
Chief.
no problem, OG.
No, Chief.
Chief,
Yeah.
any chance of a bit of MC Vapor before we go?
Mate, of all the videos that go viral, it's me in a Roblox blanket emceeing. And now, listen, no, Brucey, like he's a drummer. I don't know if you know him, but he's like a big drum and bass artist, right? Like for me, he's like the legend of all legends. Okay, I listen to him constantly, kid. I've woke up Sunday morning. I was in bed at 9 eating a Vindaloo. I had a McDonald's with a rabbit. Then I had the Vindaloo. I was lying in bed watching Unusual Suspects. He had no views on it. I thought, don't worry, because I would have told him to delete it, right? I've woke up yesterday morning, nearly 600,000 views. I've gone on the comments and Brucey's like commenting. I was like, I've been on TikTok 2 years, 1.2 million followers, and that's the video you see.
Has he followed Mark and not you as well?
Now he commented on my video yesterday
Oh,
though, to
that's
the
all
mate.
right.
I was thinking he's gonna watch that video and think they're on the daily. I'm outside in the back garden with a Roblox blanket emceeing, and I ain't. I was
Why not?
mortified.
We want more. Maybe that's your next route. That's your next
You
series.
see, MC
MC
Vapor has
Mill.
always been like the trick up, like it's like the old like everyone knows when that song comes on, like Millie's about to perform. But the thing is, I was more disappointed because I didn't give it the performance that it was worth. Like for me, normally I'm gonna stand up. You're about to witness the performance.
This
But I
is
was literally sitting in a
mic
row.
drop.
Look, Bab, I didn't even give it my 100%, man. I wish you would have seen it when I was like top tier MC Viper. Do you know what I
Elite.
mean? But
Well, now's your time.
bro, listen, that's putting me on the spot. Maybe another time, all right?
That's it. I will eagerly await the video when it happens. I
God,
want
more.
full makeup, hair up, the lot.
Yeah.
We've seen you dressed like a Warsaw drum and bass girl before. We want the song and the visual. Go wild.
Exactly. You know, it's funny because I can't wait for my mum and dad to come over because I think a lot of people must like have watched whoever watches me sometimes, and I understand it. Look, it's easy to make a judgment on a creator on TikTok, right? Must think, oh, what you like from behind the screen. I am worse off camera than I am. You ask my mum and dad, like my mum and dad, I'm gonna ask them on camera when they come here. They will say it in front of my mum and dad. They want things. They ain't lawyers. From the moment I was, because I got diagnosed with ADHD as a kid. I don't think I've ever spoke about that on TikTok. I actually
Yeah.
haven't. Wow.
I didn't ask the question because I didn't want to put, but with you mentioning it, like that's weird. Like it's that neurodivergent. I didn't realise that you was
Yeah,
diagnosed.
I got diagnosed as a kid, and back then, I don't speak about it often because um I don't know why I don't speak about that often, honestly. I think I outgrew it, right? Because I know with ADHD you can kind of outgrow it. You can kind of work with it where it doesn't really affect you anymore from
You build your kind
yeah.
of structure to be able to manage it better.
I don't kind of think that I did at all, like, right, because I have got ways of things the things that I do and stuff that, like, you know, um, but I've always been like this, like, I've always, like, the pranks that I do on Mark, like, this ain't new for TikTok, like, mate, I was pulling out pranks from 1993, do you know what I mean? Like, I was born and pranked me mum, like, you can ask them, like, even like, we dropped Keegan off this one day at nursery, right? Like, it was like 2. And I literally pre-planned it, right? I had this spray bottle in the back seat of the car and I went, Hutch! And I sprayed my dad in the neck, like, and I was recording him. Like, I've been doing this for years. Like, this is like where I thrive. You lot should never have given me the platform.
You don't even know about the start of
You should
this.
never have given the platform because all you've done is egg me on. Like, I've been doing it to my mum and dad for years. Like, they've had enough of my shit. And like, I feel like my mum and dad have had a good old break. So because I've already got things in my head planned for them when they come out. Don't forget, they don't know all the ins and outs of America. So I'm going to have them on about so many things, believe me. They already know it's coming.
Yeah, someone here's just put about the fart spray. Oh, that was the one with the aftershave. That was fart spray.
Yeah. But the thing is, as well, I think it's really easy to look at, like, and this is the problem. Some creators do the skits where it's fake. I don't judge them because at the end of the day, when you watch, I don't know, Downton Abbey, do you think that's real? Do you think they're
Yeah,
all
yeah.
sitting there in Downton Abbey? Of course, it's a show. It's a show for entertainment. So if people do set up fake pranks or whatever, I'm like, do you? I found it funny regardless. But me and Mark Dole, this bloke ain't got a clue. This is what makes it
It'll be
brilliant.
that. It's that you've got the best platform because the culture difference. He won't know what book
Well,
you're
I mean,
playing from.
who in a million years would like think like some of the stuff that I've done? Like, you have to understand these things don't just happen in the moment. I think I pre-plan. I'm a pre-planner of what I'm about to do. Do you know what I mean? So
Calculated pranker.
exactly, and because I do the TikTok, like, it's made it a lot more. It's made it a lot more easier for me because now I can be like, oh yeah, I've got this collab babe, or so it's believable because he thinks that I'm recording for like TikTok and not because I'm gonna prank him. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, it's class.
Yeah.
I'm going to share this last bit with you separately because I think you've this is the Warsaw girl. Someone's just put asking about Bilston. These people don't
I
know
actually went
about
to school
Bilston.
in Bilston though. I went to St Thomas
That
More.
that's probably where it's come from then. See, I was a
Hmm.
manor kid.
Where
Like
did you go?
literally,
Warsaw. We went to Warsaw Manor, but that ain't that where you was born.
nah, Manor High School.
The Manor High School. Oh, yeah. Sorry,
They
I was
knocked
thinking,
it.
God, you
They
went to
knocked it
school at
down when I was.
Capital.
I left the school and they knocked it down. I was just like, "We are having no more of this."
Nah, man. I was that confused, and I was thinking, did you ever leave? Was you born at the
Nah,
Manor?
I was in the creche at
Manor
Walsall
Farm,
Manor
Manor
until I was
Farm,
13.
Manor Farm, Worry.
Manor High.
Oh, Manor High.
Yeah, they used to ship people from the Oak Tree to the school and from Warsaw because like that's where like all the rough kids went. It was literally like rough as ass.
Yeah,
Like
man. I loved going to school in Bilston, to be fair. But like there was a lot of like Bloxbridge, Colpole and that went to St Thomas More. But I actually enjoyed school. I wouldn't, you know what's weird, um uh the other day I had this English teacher, yeah, and I couldn't remember her name, but she was stunning. Dead long blonde hair. All the lads fancied her, one of them. She had the
yeah,
tight
yeah,
hair from that. She was always dead trendy. And I was actually talking about her a couple of weeks ago because as a teacher that I never left me. Like she would always like she made me want to learn. Do you know what I mean? She made me want to do well in school. And I can't remember her name, mate. She only Instagrammed me. Look, funny enough, last week she Instagrammed me and was like, "Hi, I used to be Millie's teacher. She's a great girl. Hope she's doing well." Not thinking it wasn't like me, it was Mark. And I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Are you my teacher?" She was like, "Yeah." Her name's Miss Taylor. And I was like, "Oh my God," like,
But
looking
they're
back,
the
like,
people you want to connect with in it because like we've all
mm,
got them people that like I used to get on with the strict teachers I did because they
I
had
met,
clear boundaries.
I
I knew
met,
where I stood with them and I knew that I couldn't take the piss. These
yeah.
ones that fluctuated and demanded authority, like don't tell me I've got to respect you.
I
Show
like the
me how.
ones that treated me like I was a human being. There was this
Yeah,
one teacher, her name was called Miss Pearsehouse. I don't know if anyone went to St Thomas More and remembers Miss Pearsehouse, but that woman was scary. Mate, look, she's the kind of woman that you'd flap to, do you know what I'm saying? Like you wouldn't want to go toe to toe with her. Um and Air was like the one that everyone was scared of, but I never was kid because you know what? She liked my cheekiness, you know what I mean? Like I knew I
yeah,
had to get my shirt tucked in and my tie used to have to be done if it was like lurking down the like it was a bit like Miss Trunchbull. That's the only way to describe her, right? But in the
yeah.
nicest way possible. She showed authority, and if you took the piss, it'd probably swing you over by your pigtails. But she was very, very nice. She was beautiful. I actually, God rest her soul, think her passed away. I don't know if I heard it was her or Miss Gilbert, but she was the teacher for me. Like everyone else was scared of her, but I absolutely loved her, man. Like she was the bollocks.
It is. It's class. Right. I could rattle you for days. Maybe we could just do another one where we just rattle black country crap.
Orange chips and that kind of
Yeah,
conversation.
standard. We'll get Bobby on and all.
Oh, Bobby, I know he was 30
Yeah,
the other day. Did you see his cake? Oh, I absolutely
it
love
was
him.
class.
I love him. When I met him when I come back home and I met him in person, um, I was like in awe. Like nobody should be that good looking. Like no, like I was like kind of down when I look up at him because my eyebrows weren't on par with him. Right, his makeup flawless, and he's really really tall in real life. And I was
It
like,
is.
he's like a model.
It come to because I work at dance comps. I host dance comps for my mate Jade. So she's got her own company, and I'm on the mic hosting. Like, and he come down with his mate who's got a dance school, and he was in there. He'd just come off a night out, and that chap knows how to get a crowd. He was in the parents' round, and he walked in, and everyone said to him, "Why am you so tall?" And that was the first thing that
The
was like,
first thing I
"How
said
am
to
you
him
so
as
tall?"
well. Yeah, he's lovely though, and I just love like he's the one like one of the few creators that I actually search for and like go on the page because I think TikTok's become a real weird place lately. Not just TikTok, I think social media in general
Yeah,
has.
yeah,
Um, and I like to find them like creators that I can like relate to and make me
yeah,
laugh. Do you know what I mean? Because there's one thing I love to do, and that's laugh.
yeah.
I love to laugh out loud, and like my laugh is horrific. Like my laugh would
It's a
literally,
cackle, and I'm here for it.
yeah, like it is what it is. I mean, I ain't everybody's cup of tea, but if I was,
Nah,
the
I'm here
world would be
for it.
boring, wouldn't it?
Nah, love it. Right then, Cocker. I'll see
I'll
you in a
see you
bit.
later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
See
for
you,
having
Bob.
me on. I'll see you later, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'm
Ta-da.
taking my TikTok light off now. Look how shiny I look. I'll see you later.